And this is Mel Melvin, and welcome to my channel, Doorway to the World. As you can see, it's another cold day here in New Hampshire, but it's nice and warm in the studio. For those of you who've been following my channel, yesterday I took down all the videos on the channel, and I want to start all over, concentrating on Battletop and Battletop arenas. So I'm going to pause this for a minute and then zoom in and just kind of go right back, kind of square one, to see if I can present some of the beautiful battletops that I think are beautiful and the arenas that I've invented, and share them with you. Thank you. Now this is a purple heart, and that would spin a little bit longer. That has a different kind of tip on it, but I'll explain that in a minute. And so the tack tips would spin a good tip upwards of 2 minutes, which is a long time for a non-ball bearing top. And I did about 100 of those. I gave them away, and some of them I kept. And then some of the tops that you see here, I've taken the carpet tack off and put on another tip, and I'll explain that in a minute. And of course, this is the Duncan top, a ball-bearing top, and it's kind of the gold standard. And it's a beautiful top. It does all kinds of tricks and so forth and so on. And this is a plastic top of the same kind of design. The problem with the Duncan top is that it's not a good battle top because it just sits and spins, which is what they want it to do. It doesn't move around. So a battle top, you want it to be able to move and get in trouble and look for trouble and bump everything and so forth and so on. And so you want a whole different kind of top than a stationary top that just sits and spins. Now the problem with the Terminator series, the tack tops, is if you would throw them down, the tip is, of course, very hard, and they tend to bounce out. So I make all these kind of different places in arenas, and these tops would bounce and skid, but mostly they would bounce right out. And so when I started figuring out how to do an arena, they weren't really my best choice. And then I began to think about this kind of top right here. It's called a Spin Top Company. You can buy these on the net. Get 3 of them for about $10. And I had this kind of tip. And I looked at that for about, 4 or 5 years, literally, and couldn't figure that out. Then I realized that that tip was a pop rivet, or that I could duplicate that with a pop rivet, and a little washer down first so that it would catch the string a little bit better. And these are aluminum pop rivets, and they have been the tip that I was looking for to do a really good battle top. And the reason that they're good is that they'll come down into the arena and they won't bounce out. They're just a little softer. They'll still bounce, but not much to bounce right off. And not only that, but the more you do these tops, the more you spin them, the tip, because these are aluminum, will flatten out, and that makes it a better runner. And they'll just run all over the place. All right. So then I started making different kinds of tops, as you can see, the different designs and so forth and so on. And I came up with an idea of taking the Duncan top and trying to duplicate that in a smaller top. This was just too big. It was too big for my grandchildren and so forth and so on. I needed a smaller top. And so what I did was I went down and made a top about this size. I kept the string on just to show you. This is a rosewood top. I call this top Rosie. It's my favorite top. And what I did was I took the Duncan top and I went back to my 7th grade math and I did ratios of the vital measurements. So round and in here and down here and so forth. And I take measurements, and then I took ratios of those measurements down to this kind of top until I could finally figure it out. And it's a small top. It looks possibly too small, but it's my favorite top. This top really, really spins really well. And not only spins, but it moves around and bounces. So you get it up next to the edge of the arena, and you want this to really have a bounce out and keep going. And I just kept the string on there for that. But that's my favorite top because it was almost an exact duplicate of the ratio of the Duncan top. So I thought I'd start off the video series with explaining those tops to you. Now this, of course, is a Mexican top. They call it a trompo top. It has the same tip, same kind of tip. They're very difficult, I found, to throw because it doesn't have a really prolonged or a little indentation there to catch the string. And I found these are difficult tops to throw. I'm sure they're fine if you can know how to do them. But I bought one just to show you. That's the bigger Mexican top that they usually have. And so there's different designs and so forth and so on. But the main thing that I want to say is that once I found out how to duplicate the dimensions of the Duncan top and ratio those down to a smaller top, then I really have it. So what I'll do is I'll give you some demonstrations next on tossing these tops to see how they work, and then I'll show you some of my arenas. So that'll be video 1 on my new video series on Battletop and Battletop arenas. And thank you for viewing.